took us a little longer to do that part than it should have, or maybe than I would have liked to have had. So this field got overgrazed. Now, the dangers with overgrazing, I guess there's more than one that you really need to consider. That's what I get for trying to feed him earlier than normal. He doesn't know the food's down here, and the chickens are gonna clean that up. Oops. I guess if there's one good thing about it, chicken feed and beef feed are not that dissimilar in price. So if they're gonna eat, I mean, whatever, right? Now, it's not gonna be too much longer before we have to move the beef steer from this field back into this one, but I'm trying to give this pasture as much time to recover as possible. And I'm gonna tell you why that's the case here in a minute, but we've got a few other things I wanna do before we get to that. Those turkeys got so big so fast, and I wish I could get them out on pasture. I've only got the one chicken tractor, and right now it's full of layer birds. I swore I was not going to build another tractor like the chicken tank, the last one we built. I love that thing. I don't worry about it in weather or anything. I don't think anything's going to tear it up. It's just really, really heavy, and it kind of defeats the purpose of a chicken tractor. I did today come into some more free metal roofing, and ooh, do I want to build another one like that? Got the material, and it wasn't that expensive to do it like that. I don't know. We're gonna see. Are you hiding any eggs today? Nope. I've got hens that have gone broody all over the place, and that one just happens to not be sitting on any eggs. I don't know. We're gonna keep those right there, because I'll come back down and get them later, because the chores around here never stop. Here's hen number 2. She found herself a really nice spot to hole up. I think I've got another hen that's gone broody somewhere as well. You know, we do a nightly head count on the chickens. Each night, you know, before we shut them up for the day, they free range all during the day, and then at night we put them up, we do a head count, and I've had 2 that were missing. Well, that's one of them, and I'm still missing one. I mean, it could have been a predator, but it's one of those things, I haven't seen any evidence of predator behavior, you know, like a big, perhaps a hawk or something. You just have a pile of feathers just poof out in the middle of the field. I haven't found that. Doesn't mean it's not there, just means I haven't found it. I haven't seen any trail like a dog or something like that. So I don't know. It's not like we need any more baby chickens anywhere, but I'm hoping that's the case, that she's broody and she hasn't been you know, somebody's lunch.
What are the boys doing?
So these little guys are separate from the rest of the herd because they are coming of age, and we don't want them to breed any of the other girls, you know, their mom or their aunts or sisters, or, you know, we don't want any of that to happen. So they're in there during the day. They would otherwise be in here with these boys, but they won't stay in the electric fence. Benji and Rip there do a great job staying where they're supposed to stay. Buck and Cap don't. So, you know, it'd be a lot cooler if you did, guys, but I guess that's not what they're gonna do. How many have we got in here? No eggs? Oh, no, there are eggs in here. 3 eggs in the floor of that coop. So that makes 5, maybe 7 for today. I think Macon got some earlier, which is not a lot, but you know, if we've got broody hens, they're not laying. And yeah, okay, so we ought to get them off the nest. We ought to. But if If I leave them alone for 3 weeks, we have baby chickens, and then they're not broody anymore. Or I'm going to fight with them for the next 2 months or more, trying to break them with that broody habit. You got to pick your battles, I guess, whether you're raising chickens, whether you're raising kids. Know when to fight, when to not. Maybe this ought to be one. I don't know. I ain't that worried about it. I've still got more eggs than I can eat. And besides, if they're just eating the beef feed, it's not like I'm buying any extra feed. What?
I tell him to get a piece. Mom.
That's a Brussels sprout, not a cabbage. We're not going to get any sprouts off of them.
No, but it looks good.
No.
On our last video, we had several people mention that if remembering to water the garden or if irrigation, anything like that, if water is the problem, prioritize getting that done. And so today what we decided to do, finally, is move a garden hose back here. So we've got basically two access ports to water on the outside of our house, one in the back and one in the front. The one in the front is actually closer to the barn because it's just easier to get the hose from the front of the house over to the barn. But it's further from the garden. So we need more garden hoses. Garden hoses are really expensive. If you're going to buy a nice one, one that hopefully holds up for a while, they're not cheap. So we've got a couple old ones, or at least one old one laying around here. We've got one really nice one. It's not far enough, not long enough to reach the whole weight that we need. Anyway, that's a long way to say we appreciate everybody mentioning that. Hey, if that's a problem, prioritize it. You're exactly right. And so appreciate you mentioning that. We have broccoli. And apparently, I'm getting yelled at. Apparently, we have broccoli.
Look!
Broccoli.
Let me see.
Broccoli!
That's broccoli.
Why are you running away?
Look,
Okay, it's broccoli.
Look right there, buddy.
Right there. And right there. Broccoli. I thought for sure I killed these. And I killed 4 of them, but 2 of them lived, so that's something.
Hey, a win is a win. Don't, you got to count every one of them around here. And speaking of counting wins, we're going to ignore the orchard. We got goat problems with the orchard. So since we're only counting wins, we're just going to ignore that one. So the other day, we weighed Ricky. Say that 5 times fast, you're going to end up with a we weighed Wiki. Weighed him the other day. He is probably today. He wasn't quite there yet, but he probably is there now. 10 pounds. He was about 9.4 pounds or something the other day. This little miracle baby goat that was barely over a pound when he was born. Megan's done an incredible job, but Ricky is also, apparently he's got a fighting spirit, so incredibly happy. Look who decided to come up here and join us. Yeah, see, we fed you early. We threw him off his rhythm, change things up around here. Nobody knows what to do. Typically, we don't get out here until dark, basically, to feed everybody. Just the way life breaks down sometimes. So, he didn't know what to think. But hey, you got food. He's got food. You gotta be too happy. Once again, I will put in a plug for polywire. That stuff is great. Wow, look at all the blackberries. Get a load of that. Okay, sorry, getting distracted. Polywire, it's fantastic. And it took us a while to get, we had to get this field set up first. So it took us a little time to get this field set up and ready for polywire. And the reason for that is this was our first time that we ever set that up. So there was a lot of thinking that I had to do trying to plan for the now and plan for the future. Power's coming out of the barn and we got to feed it to this paddock, but also make sure that we can branch out to, a couple of these others as we go and not have to redo that part of it, 100 times. So try to do a lot of thinking ahead of time to get all that squared away, set up, and then from there we figured out how to come over to the next spot. Now it took us a little longer to do that part than it should have, or maybe than I would have liked to have had. So this field got overgrazed. Now the dangers with overgrazing, I guess there's more than one that you really need to consider, but so one danger you need to keep in mind, the shorter this grass is, you kind of stunt the growth of your roots. Now, the deeper those roots can go into the ground, they're able to pull moisture, pull water further down in the soil. So if you go through a dry spell, your grass doesn't suffer quite as much as shorter grass because it's able to pull that water from a lower level. You know, if it's really hot, hadn't rained in a while, all the moisture up at the top of the soil is gone. So taller grasses, healthier roots, are able to pull moisture from deeper in the ground. Now, you also run into the problem where shorter grasses, if all they eat is the most delicious stuff, the stuff that they love to eat, you kind of end up with an overgrowth of weeds. Now, the reason those are able to take over is because the shade pressure from the good grasses is gone. So if all that stuff is down low, the weeds grow up, and then the weeds start shading out the good stuff, and then the weeds go to seed, and then you end up with a whole field full of weeds. Now behind me is broom sedge. That's a nutrition problem. Once the chickens and the chicken tractor get done with the field they're in, I'm going to move them throughout that entire field. I'm going to focusing all of their energy on one. The next time we move that tractor into a different field, we're going to move it in here. Seeing huge results in that field from the chicken tractor, so I'm looking forward to getting all the broom sedge gone. The cow did do a good job kind of rolling some of this stuff down, and it's just a lot of it. It's just a lot. But he did do a good job knocking some of that down, and I'm not going to begrudge him for doing his best. Now this field behind me, that one that you're seeing, see the polywire, that's the field he's in now. In a perfect world, like in our dream future setup, he would not be left in this field for up to a month. I would like to divide these, 3/4 to 1 acre pastures in half with polywire, let them graze one side of it and move them to the next one. We're not there yet, and we're going to get there. It's one of the goals, and it's a good thing about this is everything's a process. You have time to work, and everyone wants everything done immediately, but I got time, and that's no big deal. So he's in that one right now. The grass, just keeping an eye on it, looks to be doing really good. It doesn't look like he's overgrazing anything. He's got plenty of stuff to choose from, and he's not, having a detrimental effect on everything else. And of course, the detriment to any of that is somewhat outweighed by the fact that as they move around, as our beef cattle move around, they're putting a crap ton of nutrients down onto the soil. So good organic matter as they do that. This is so much fun. And one of the benefits to having cattle versus goats is one beef steer who can feed our family for a year, half of that can feed our family for a year, will eat more than a whole bunch of goats, just because it's a bigger animal and because they graze differently. Cattle graze versus a goat that forages. They kind of walk around and pick and they eat the best of the best, and they just nose their stuff around. Cattle, they mow. And the longer these animals graze and the shorter that grass gets grazed, if you let them go too long, if they overgraze that pasture, it takes longer for your grasses to recover. So if you can move them, everyone who talks about regenerative agriculture talks about regeneration and maximizing, letting the land recover and do all that thing. If you don't graze your grasses quite as short, it doesn't take them as long to recover, and then over time you build up a healthier pasture, which is what everyone wants, so you can have a higher stocking density, you can keep more animals per acre, and that's everyone's goal. More animals means more money, and as long as you can do that in a healthy way for your soil, you take care of the earth, that's going to provide for you. Now, one thing that I'm seeing, and I'm not excited about, but it's just a fact, I kind of thought this was going to be the case, but it's probably a little worse than what I was hoping. Looks like I've got trees growing up out here. No, I've got some in this where all of our fence rows are so overgrown, and that stuff's just kind of creeping its way in. It's just part of it, but that's going to require some attention. I don't know, we'll probably focus on that when the beef steer moves from that field back into this one. We'll probably let him eat this down one more time, and then when the grass is a little shorter, because right now we've still got more of it, and another couple months isn't going to make or break anything, so we're going to give that a little bit more time, but that's going to be coming up soon. Recently I came across Greg Judy, his YouTube channel, and if you're into the regenerative agriculture thing, you probably know Greg's name, you probably heard it. I didn't know who he was, and so he's big on regenerative agriculture. He's big on the South Pole cattle breed, and I think that all that is just great. South Pole are grazing machines. I mean, they big wide mouths, mow everything down. They don't need any feed input, so that's less cost on our end. They're expensive up front, but all cattle are expensive right now, so I think that's something that in the future, we might try to pursue that. I don't know. If you're interested in regenerative, I'm just going to start calling it regen. Apparently I get tongue-tied when I try to say regenerative. If you're interested in regen ag and you haven't checked out Greg Judy's stuff, I'd encourage you to do that because I've been watching a bunch of his things and it's really, really cool. If you have any more questions for us about our setup or why we do the things that we do, feel free to drop them down in the comments. I really appreciate you walking, taking a little quick walk around the property with us today. It means the world to me. It means the world to my family having you along. My name's Reagan. This is the GWP Homestead. We'll see y'all soon.